Howdy, Connection Group leaders. Happy Thursday. And Katrina would want me to tell you happy tournament day. I don't know if you know this or not about her, but the NCAA men's tournament, it's like her favorite holiday that's not, in fact, a holiday. She's been running around and cheering things on, and it really is a lot of fun. Not only to just have the TVs on over the LC, but it's just a fun thing. You know that, to get with peers and hang out and laugh, and certainly if your alma mater's involved, it's a really, really cool thing. We'll talk about that more in a second, but I want to do a quick reminder. This coming Friday and Saturday, next week, we have the amazing opportunity to feed the first responders of Arlington, and we're going to do it. In fact, we're going to serve them a brisket meal, but from Friday at 6 a.m. to Saturday at 6 a.m., any police officer, first responder that shows up at our church, we're going to feed them, and it's free. There's no strings attached. They don't have to stay. We'll have to-go plates if they'd like, but we want to have the opportunity to show these incredible men and women that we love them, we support them. If they'll give us the opportunity to pray for them, we certainly want to do that too. The way you can be involved is this. During that 24-hour time period, we need people to come and to help us to serve the meal and sit and encourage and bless these officers and first responders. So if you or anybody in your class would like to be a part of that, would you email me back and let me know? We'd love to get you involved. That's going to be a really, really cool thing. Now, let's talk about Romans chapter 12. Guys, I love this chapter. It's so good. It's just really, really practical. It's maybe not quite as... what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. It's not quite as popular as chapter 8. We'll put it that way. But chapter 12 is just so practical. There's so many things, especially those last really 11 or 12 verses. They're just on the money. You can wrap your hands around them and say, like, I can do those things. And we can do those things. But I love the chapter's approach to it. Not only is it practical, but it actually gives us the motivating factor behind it all. And that all comes from verse 1. I appeal to you by the mercies of God. Do these things we're about to say. Guys, mercy, specifically mercy, the mercy of Christ is a motivator. We got to know that. That's what drives us to love and to serve and to worship Jesus. In fact, if that's not what motivates us, eventually we're going to burn out. But when we've experienced mercy, and we have, we never get over that fact. It just continually drives us to keep going. And if you want to look at it as a repayment thing, that's fine. But mercy is the motivator that keeps us going to worship Christ. And I love how it actually spells out worship for us too. Look at this. It says, present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable God, which is your spiritual act of worship. Guys, we need to remember too, and this is actually really important on Sunday mornings, we can't just use the word worship when we're referencing singing. Singing is not just worship. That's a portion of it. It's an important portion of it. But the scriptures actually seem to indicate over and over and over again, the bigger acts of worship are in fact us living for Jesus and doing the things that Christ has commanded us to do in the first place. That's real worship. And when we do those things, boy, the singing suddenly becomes a lot easier, by the way. The driving motivator, though, is still mercy. So he says, okay, if you're going to live for me, you need to have your mind transformed. Otherwise, it's never really going to take. You're just going to be forcing yourself. It's going to be frustrating. And yes, in and of yourself, you can't do this. So how do you have your mind move? Really two things. It's the reading of the scriptures, and then it's the denial of ourselves. That's what it means to be a living sacrifice. And so once we do those things and our minds begin to change, what happens? Really two things. We begin to serve the body of Christ more. That's what verses really 3 through 8 are all about. And just a heads up, because of what we're talking about next week, I wouldn't focus as much on those particular verses as much as I would verses 9 through 21. Get into the nitty gritty. And I don't want to say simple. None of these things are simple, but they are tangible. And literally, let me encourage you, as you're teaching this lesson, guys, just read a verse and throw it out to your class and say, okay, how can we do that? What does it mean to practically, for instance, outdo one another in showing honor? I've always loved that concept. I used to play this game with some other youth pastors in the community, and we'd call it the blessing game. And we'd find simple and sometimes extravagant ways to bless one another. And we do this in front of our students because we're trying to get them to grasp this concept. The blessing games just means I'm going to find ways to outdo my fellow believers in showing them honor. And by the way, when I do that, they continue to show honor back and forth and back and forth. It's a really, really cool thing. That's how a marriage is supposed to work, right? Same deal. Or look at the next page. Look at verse 17. Give thought to do what is honorable. Notice that give thought part, right? Don't just do what's honorable. Actually think about what's honorable. Notice what it says right before that too. It goes back to the idea of revenge. Stop and think before you thoughtlessly try to take out revenge on someone else. Be thoughtful and think about what the honorable thing to do. Guys, this is just meaty, tangible stuff to do. Again, it's not easy. In fact, it's really, really hard, except it's not as hard when mercy is what motivates us and our minds have been changed because of what Christ has done in our lives. So dive into this lesson. Enjoy it. I think you and your class will have a great time. We love you. Have a great weekend. I'm going to say it even though they got gypped out of the tournament, Giga Maggies, and we'll see y'all soon. Bye-bye.